Sure. Okay, I just want to welcome everybody to tonight Vermont Supervisory Union Policy Draft Committee. We're going to have, it's going to be short than normal because we have an engagement and we want to be over at the high school around 5:30. The agenda items for tonight are policy number 5030, attendance, and is number 1. Policy 4020, appointment of administrators other than the superintendent, is number 2. And we have the tracking sheet. And maybe we can get through with those. The time limit that we're going to be working from now until about 5:15 or sooner, if we can get through these and the tracking sheet and remove. Are there any other items that the audience or the group would like to have discussed or put on the agenda? If not, it would be great if it's been a while, we run through the introduction for names so we can say who's here real quick. We can start with
me.
Lisa.
Lisa Poplasky, Admin Assistant in Central Office.
Donna Leap, Assistant Superintendent.
Holly Bam, Shasberry School Board.
Bruce Lee Clark, Career Development Center.
Angie Rowling Panel.
Sandy Foster, Principal, Woodford.
John Bullock, North Bennington.
Leon Johnson, Mount Anthony.
Frank Barnes, SVSU Technology Director.
Okay, I just want to thank everybody for coming out, and as usual, we have CAT TV going, and that's a good thing for all of those that are not here tonight. And if we have something that you're concerned about, have comments, you're welcome to send them in later on.
I just had one comment that we met with Kristen Harrington last time, and she would express some interest in doing a student health policy and communicable disease, and she said that they are going to be working with the AOE this summer to develop some model policies. So we're looking forward to, she was going to come back and bring some information this time, but we're going to push it to our next meeting when we hope they will have some policies for us to look at and consider.
Okay, and that's what one of the things I didn't get a chance to follow through on. It was that, and it's student health.
Yes.
And
yes.
One of the things that we were going to, when the time comes, we'll want to understand that policy and what's not covered in our own policies, and whether we needed to pull them out or we're not double dipping along that line. So Jack is here.
The VSBA would have those ready.
Yes,
towards the end
in the
of
fall.
summer.
They were going to work on it in July, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And I see Dick, you said Dick Francis is not going to be here tonight.
No, I said Dave. I don't know if Dick's coming.
Dear, okay. With the attendance policy, 5,030 was up, and I sent, as I don't know what all we did last time when we here was that, but the administrative regs were the part of the policy that we were looking at, because we wanted to make sure we understood all of the things in the policy and how they came out on the administrative regs. One of the things that I had looked at is that the third paragraph, the final one in the policy, that talks about the process of accurate electronic records to be kept. Not
What
in
page are you on?
This is page 1.
First page.
Oh, okay.
First page. Accurate.
Line 16.
Okay. Accurate electronic records of attendance will be kept on all pupils, and twice a year, attendance reports will be given to SVSU and individual boards of the prudent committee, and perfect attendance will be kept annually, will be recognized annually for all students. This was a big thing in terms of a policy that we wanted to put, that we added in there to make sure that part of the program is to develop and get the whole student and be consistent with all of the districts in terms of how we're treating absence and tardiness, and what actions are necessary to be put in place in terms of making sure we bring along all the students that were in that category of being absent or truant along that line. So this is why the wording is what it is. in terms of twice a year, having the individual board, send information on their attendance to SVSU, and SVSU would have the whole composite of all of them twice a year, and their own individual boards will be looking at what it is that we got out here that we have in terms of policy. So I didn't see those particular areas inside of the administrative regs in terms of whether the format in which you wanted the information to be sent, or whether that was going to just take place, and maybe I missed it. And do we need to have anything in there in accordance to that since they're here? That was my question. So you can tell me whether we needed to do anything. That's the part of the policy that we're talking about, and whether we need to add anything in the regs with it. And so the floor is now open.
I can, oh, sorry, Frank.
Okay, Sandy?
I can tell you that I give each and every month the attendance for our school to the board at our board meeting, so that they are aware of what the percentage is overall for the school, and it's pretty easy with Infinite Campus to do that.
So Sandy's she does it, and Wolford, they do it monthly, but
Yeah,
we're saying as a member.
Do you send it on to the SVSU?
I do not, my board knows what our part is,
I
but they're asking
understand
for
that.
a whole, like all of the SU, and that would be a frank question as to how that would happen SU-wide.
You,
I don't know that it is really. The electronic records are gonna be kept through Infinite Campus. Are you using Infinite Campus?
Yeah.
Okay. So they're there already, but as far as the reports will be given, I mean, if the SVSU wants a report from each district or each building, I guess it would have to be, it would be up to the registrar, whoever's using Infinite Campus as an administrator in each building, to just generate that report and give it to the SVSU. I think that's what you're talking about, right?
well, that's true, but what we want is that report to be sort of consistent throughout the districts out there in terms of what they look like.
Well,
And so,
not being
Right.
a great expert on Infinite Campus, but it would seem to me that they could easily generate the same report in every district,
Yes.
and therefore
It can.
it can.
Right.
That's what I thought.
Okay.
So the only question, I guess, is, one, you generate yours monthly for your board. I think I remember hearing somebody saying a month ago that it being monthly is just as easy as every other, as twice a year. So it would seem to me that it's just a question of setting up the process whereby, I don't know what the SU board wants, but it seems to me, I don't see a reason that you need a regulation as such. This basically says you will do it. Now, whether anybody is charged with doing it, that's a different matter, but I would bet Donna's got that all figured out, or will have that all figured out somewhere.
Yes,
Okay.
it's not hard. We already worked with Elaine and Marcia, and there's a report that can just be generated from and can go out with the board agendas.
Yeah.
It just is, and it can be done in the total SVSU, or it can be done by each
District.
Right. So at each district, they probably want their own report.
Right,
And
Right.
then at the SVSU, they would want cumulative data.
I would think.
Right.
And you-
So,
not having seen one of those
yeah, I'm
reports, I
sorry,
don't know what they look like.
I thought we had an example. What, do you have one? Yeah, I knew we printed one out to see what it looked like. but-
Keep doing
Okay,
it.
we'll keep talking.
Yeah.
We had one model of one that came from the SVSU. It's,
Okay.
I don't know how user-friendly it is, but, you know, that would be the easiest thing, and
I think
not
that's-
to recreate something.
Absolutely.
Right, that's exactly
Absolutely.
right.
Make it hard.
And so, and because the minimum only thing that was in here, we're saying we wanted to see it and make sure that all the districts, when we was talking about this, consistently looked at that, because some students because of when you look at the number of excused and absence and the number of students and so forth along that line, it shows a pattern of types of things, and we're not looking for student names, we're looking for the percents and things along that line. I don't know exactly how you do it over here, because we wanna just see numbers in terms of maybe the categories, if that's what you're showing, or whatever, what falling out, or maybe you're just showing tardiness, we had, 5%, absent, we had 3%, and the rest of it, this month or quarterly, it was this amount. Now, the question comes about is, what do you do with that 3% or that 2%? And I think in the administrative regs, you got a lot of stuff that
The how-tos.
how to use it and notify the parents and do all this kind of stuff.
Sure.
So that over time, the district and the public, which these numbers will become the public, will be looking at the fact that we're doing something, and the numbers are going down in terms of absenteeism, tardiness, and vice versa. And the graduation rate and the attendance rate is to go up the other way, because that's what we want to happen. And if the board part of that, the reason SVSU and the district boards are looking at it, if we need to do some additional things to help in those areas, to improve the numbers one way or another, to reduce the deficiency and so forth along, and improve that number so that when they do get through from the elementary to the middle school and to the high school, the graduation rate is 100% is what we're looking for, if we can get it that way.
May I ask a question?
Jackie? Yeah.
So further down in the document, it states 5-day absences and 10-day absences. And so is that primarily for the high school and Carnegie units? Meaning if a student is absent excessively, then they would have to take that class over?
Well, that's the part. This was done, the administrative regs piece, in terms of the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school were all different. So in consultation with each one of those bodies out there, and saying, how do you treat elementary kids and how do you treat middle school kids a little different as opposed to how you treat the high school. So if you're looking at the high school part, there's other ways of managing the absentee in terms of class cutting and tardiness and all this other stuff. So that would be different. So I don't know what section you're looking at. Lisa's, she'll be right back. She'll.
Okay, so it's like 120, and it begins at
So that's all of them.
5-day absences begin at 97.
So
Just pass that
Lisa,
around.
can you scroll down to
Yeah, it's on.
Yeah, those are
97?
by elementary and then middle school and then high school.
Right. But
They're
the
not the same.
purpose, I only saw really one purpose in the beginning, meaning the purpose was to collect it twice a year so that we could award perfect attendance.
Well, we want it
Well, I
as a
don't know the
minimum.
purpose of it.
That's not the
is-
purpose.
no.
That particular part of the policy was to bring it to the district, the board level, and bring it up, bring it to light in terms of making sure that it's being managed. That's all that is. It could be like Sandra said, if you wanted to, and that's SVSU, because you're writing the districts, the central office, they can say, well, we're gonna do this every monthly. That's up to you if you wanna do that, and put it out there, because we have the actual numbers that come, you put out a number chart for how many kids in each grade and what year enrollment out there. This could be one of those things that becomes
Just a monthly report.
a monthly report if you want to, but we're saying you need to at least do it twice a year. And we want you to be, the emphasis, because of the job environment out here, strongly endorse attendance. And so that's why the emphasis are on that, saying, look, if we got students starting out from the elementary right on up, and they have 100% attendance in terms of being their presence in the school system, they should be recognized in some form or fashion. We shouldn't take that lightly.
And is it?
Well, yes, we do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think all the schools do a perfect
Absolutely.
attendance award at the end of the year.
Well, that's what we want to know. And so if everybody's saying we got it and so forth along that line, I know that it may not be the case, but we say it, but the reason that's out there is because I know for a fact that it may not have been the case. So, that's why we got it in there, okay? So Are you okay, Jackie, with that now?
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, I just questioned it only because I didn't know it was followed.
I would like to address that a little bit too, though, Leon, if you don't mind.
Okay, Frank.
One of the things we're gonna have to do, I mean, the policy itself is fine, but we're gonna have to seriously look at these administrative regs again, because if you look at line 39, right off the bat, you know, not present in class for any reason is considered absent. That's not gonna fly anymore with the current legislation that's, you know, on the books.
Correct.
So we're gonna have to address that. We're also gonna have to address this, you know, 5 days after. You can't force a student to take a class again if that student shows proficiency in that subject. Because, so these things are gonna have to be addressed in administrative regs. I don't expect we're gonna address them today. I just wanna make sure that it's on
Right.
record that we need to seriously look at
Proficiency-based graduation requirements are gonna change, at least at the high school level, a lot of what this language is.
these. Right.
So,
That ought to be generated more at the high school administrative level as they begin to flesh that out, I would think.
but that's, right now, these are good, and you're thinking that down the line, they're gonna change?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're gonna have to change them eventually.
Well, I mean,
sooner rather
right.
than
As
later.
long as we okay
Probably sooner
now,
than later.
and then that group,
Yes, I-
when they get ready, we'll
Yep.
come back and change that.
Yeah.
And remember, the administrators can change this at
It's
any.
up to the superintendent.
Right.
Yeah,
And
right.
the administrator.
And the administrators
Administrators.
can do this, they don't need us to do
Right.
it.
Okay,
Right.
so it sounds like we're on
Yeah.
path, we don't need to make any changes, it's happened, it will be the administrators are starting to do, will take care of doing that
Right.
and show that information, and that will be just fine.
I would, may I just make a comment about it?
Yes, please,
I would just mention that the guidance counselors have been meeting regularly, and I have been sharing this information with them about the policy, and that it has been adopted by every board. So it actually is our policy, and that I have shared these regulations with them, which they are really excited about getting these into practice for the next school year, because it has, especially at the elementary level, been lacking in the support. So
Right.
us developing a policy in the regs has really given this some strength and support that everyone really, really appreciates. And they have, the last time they met, they just met today, and I didn't hear what their decisions, but they're drafting letters to send home or to be part of the student handbook, student parent handbooks, so that they'll be consistent for all the schools. And they're looking at ways that they will implement these systems within their schools so everyone knows about it. And looking at who needs to be involved and responsible for tracking and following up. And how to track the attendance data and how they will follow up on chronic people who are not attending school. So I just wanted you to know that it's very, and I said, well, who's going to be doing all this? And they enthusiastically said, well, we are.
That's
So
good.
I just wanted you to know
Good.
that, because they're
That's good.
very excited about it.
And that's good, and that's
Yeah.
good news, because that's something the public wanted to know about as well out here. And so I
And
think
they're
this is
doing good work.
a visual thing that will be able to show people that we're doing things to help students
Yes.
in another way to be in school and to be available for learning. Okay, well,
So
thank you.
this will get posted as it is
Right,
tomorrow.
Okay.
And I will email it to all the principals.
And
Thank you.
Sandy, we did make some of those small changes that you mentioned the
Yeah, I
last
saw that,
time,
yeah.
okay?
Thanks.
okay. The next policy on there is policy number 4020. And this policy is on, and I asked for it to be brought back because I thought that after hearing things in the last month or so here, that there is some areas that we may want to make some changes to. And the areas has to do with not the application process, but line 5, I mean Roman number 5, which deals with starting with the screening process. Okay, and it says, item A, the superintendent and his designee will conduct an initial review of the applicant's credentials and whether we want to make any changes to that or not. I don't think that we need to make any changes there. B, the superintendent, in consultation with the board chair, will establish a screening and interview committee and process.
Yeah, right.
That's the area where I think we need to add something, and you can tell me whether I'm right or wrong. What I'm thinking about here, well, first of all, there need to be clear guidelines are to the screening committee as to what the goals are or what the objectives are supposed to be. And hearing things there in terms of being clear on whether you're going to create a brochure, whether you're going to submit after reviewing the applicants with, that was submitted, well, you need to have something to guidelines by, have a guideline. And that could either be the brochure or some goals or objectives that committee should have in helping them go through the applicants out here. Not many, but I'm throwing this out there so we can discuss what it is and vice versa, and then make up some of this, and you may not want to do anything. And I said, well, we need to document the reason for this, let's see, on down, and interview committee and process. I wrote down reasons, document reason for selection. Oh no, that's in the last part. But I'll move on down. In the next item, just for the appointment process, it says that the superintendent would recommend a candidate for appointment, and that's A. B, in the event that the candidate cannot be appointed, the board may request a review of additional candidates or recommendations by the superintendent, vice versa. So what I had out here in terms of comment, the documentation in terms of what the superintendent is bringing to the board. I heard people say, well, I want to know the reason. I want to know comments as to why you made the selection you made. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That should be some things that that if the selection was made and the person made a selection, and the reason I'm going back to when I said the brochure and maybe have some goals or something in here that we want as a minimum, because the board needs to, with the superintendent, have some sort of directions in terms of the synchronization of the person that we want to put in place to help drive this district forward. And so I'm going to turn it over to everybody once I finish here, but that's what I was looking at in terms of contact and information, and saying, this is what I think we need to be thinking about. Now you can tell me what you guys think, and then we can sort of refine this depending on what you come up with. Bruce, you want to be first?
I don't necessarily want to be first.
Oh,
I want to have a voice. And I'm not a board member, so it's my idea may be skewed, but two thoughts on this, because obviously I've thought about this too. I actually would be reluctant to make a change in the actual wording of the policy. I'm not sure that more policy language is needed.
Okay.
Though I could see something along the lines of what you're talking about, at least in terms of if there is a screening committee, here's what we expect from a screening committee.
Right.
If the screening committee will do X, Y, and Z, I could see that as being an administrative reg. So that screening committees will be informed, this is your job, this is what you can do, this is what you cannot do. Your job is to bring whatever, so that's a process that would be the same probably for a principal at Woodford, or a vice principal at the high school, or a principal almost anywhere. So, as I would see it, or another administrator, it might be essentially the same. I don't think I would want to necessarily see that in policy, and my second thought is, I'm not sure that an administrative reg could say that the superintendent shall or should be ready to state why they made such a recommendation, or why he or she made such a recommendation. I would be reluctant to say even in an administrative regulation, here's what we're looking for in administrators to drive the educational system, partly because, at least in my 20 years at this location, let alone years before that in other locations, there's lots of things that change that will drive who you want.
Right.
And that I don't think you can, I would not want to put that in a regulation or a policy. I would want the board, when it's in beginning the process of discussing, we're gonna have a new principal at the, next fall, so what are we looking for? And you communicate, I would think that board would be communicating that with the superintendent. The thing that I would want to make sure is that everybody understands that it is precisely the job of the superintendent by statute. And one of the things if I was gonna add anything here, I would add the statutory reference. It is the statutory requirement that the superintendent brings the nominee to the board. Nobody else can. Not anybody, that's actually right in Vermont statutes,
Right.
and it's, 16242. It's really easy to see. And I would, if I was gonna change this in any way, that's all I would do. The rest would be by administrative regs, and very little of that.
Okay, good, that's why I wanted to throw this out there, so that we can all come around to it, and that's a good reference, I think we may wanna do. Jackie?
I'd like to make a comment too, and I totally agree with Bruce that it shouldn't be written down here. But where it should be written down, perhaps, is in the job application itself. So when you throw out a job application, you have the types of things that you're looking for in an applicant. And that,
Okay.
when the person then is questioned, when the superintendent is questioned, why did you pick this one over that one? You could just simply say, because I looked at their application, these are the things that adhere to this, and these are the parameters that we set up.
This was the criteria, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, and I guess when I was saying sort of like a brochure, it helps so that because the application was just what was sent in or the job title, but the brochure had a little bit more of things about Bennington in there, the appeal, the shape of the school, the size, the numbers, and so forth along that line, in terms of that out here. So that's why I wanted to make sure everybody realized that you may have a brochure, but you're absolutely right. The application of the job description, in which the persons are going to be applying to, should have the things in there, and you can do it and compare it that way. Is that anyone else that has anything else? Angie?
I'd like to just add one more thing. I would think that the screening committee, or the people who are going to be on the screening committee, would have that as their parameters too. That they could look at it and say, oh, this fits this doesn't fit this. So it's a sorting process. Not that you get 100.
Right.
But it helps in the sort, and you can rate them then and say, okay, this person had this many ticks, and this person only had this many.
Okay, this is good. This is exactly what we wanted to get at. Is there anyone else that has some particular comments out here? So what I'm hearing is, basically, there should not be any changes to the policy itself, with the exception of the reference to put some strength out to say something about the superintendent's responsibility, and whether it's actually necessary to say that. And I think maybe because other people looking at this, you need to see that, and I think it might be prudent to do that, to actually show that in there, to make a change and says, okay, we're gonna put a reference in here for item A.
Yeah.
On the
Well,
6.
I would actually just put it before where we've always put legal references.
Okay,
And I don't think this is a substantive change, it just is for information.
right.
But the legal reference is 16 VSA 242.
What
Okay.
if I put it right at the end of A?
Well, because we almost always put legal references at the end of the policy.
But I mean, to reference it there and then also list it at the end. Either
I don't
way.
care, either way,
Okay.
I'm certainly not gonna,
Okay.
it should be at the end, but
Okay.
if you wanna put it
Nope,
also
that's
after
fine.
the end of, after A, that's also fine.
That's good. Okay, so that takes care of that particular
Well,
part.
actually, could I add one more thing,
One-
following up
sure.
on both
Okay,
points?
Bruce.
I think the regs are a good point, not changing the policy itself, but with respect to the criteria, perhaps the job posting itself, those criteria should be made available to the public and whoever's applying,
Very good.
so there's no question about what exactly the applicants will be
Sure.
judged on.
And it is.
It is.
It
They are
is.
public.
They are
They are.
published and
Yeah, but-
posted, but we don't say that they
It's-
should be, and I think if it said in the regs that they would be, if there were regs here and it said they will be published and posted, just because we know, we do it anyway, and you have to, that would be handy to,
Yeah, I think in terms of this as a document, that's not clear. So for example, I refer to posting the vacancy and the closing date, but is the date of closing in the posting or is it somewhere else? It's just,
Yeah.
as a standalone document, this seems to have some gaps.
it's, yeah.
Okay. That was item number 2, that you want, when the administrative position become a vacancy, the superintendent or his or her designee shall notify appropriate local governing board before posting the vacancy. And we spent quite a bit of time
Yeah, we
on
did.
that. We
Yeah.
did.
When
But-
you post it, it goes on, what's the name of that?
School
site?
Spring.
School Spring.
School
Spring.
Spring, and you'll see it in the paper, the newspaper, for, everybody who wants to apply, go to School Spring.
Right.
Does it, but since we're also talking about the public, I mean.
That's
you
a
know,
public document, the
Right,
newspaper.
right,
Yeah.
I'm just saying that since we're talking about the general, the general public, is that kind of stuff also posted? I'm not saying the posting itself, but here's what we're looking for in the new principle of School X. Could that be published? Is there any reason why you wouldn't want to publish that? I hadn't thought about it until just this moment, but publish that in, like, say, on the SVSU website, isn't it? Is it?
I would think it is posted, but
I'd have to go back.
There's-
I thought it was, it's
It
posted
may
and
very
know
well
you
be
hang
the
'em.
connection is already there, that's possible.
And you hang them out, and they hang outside. But
yeah.
what I was thinking,
Yeah,
and
they
that
are.
whether,
They're on the board.
whether you were actually, I
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
you was gonna say, well, should we put it in the paper? I mean, no, we
do.
We
It
do.
is. In
That's
essence,
right.
it
And I'm
is.
saying,
Yeah,
oh,
we do.
okay,
In
so I
essence, it
think
is.
we've gotten all of those things covered along that line.
But there is
Oh.
a current opening listing on the SVSU.
Yes, I
website.
know that, yeah, I knew that, but I wasn't sure how detailed it was, because I'm not looking for a job at the, if anything, I'm looking for not a job at the, it's not,
No, but it's the posting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that, it comes right from the job description. So those
Okay.
are the qualifications.
that's,
we're
that
looking
seems
for.
fine, that,
But I think what the essence is here is that it's more than just qualifications. There's
It's-
some goals and objectives that
Yeah.
Oh,
they
yeah.
want included,
right,
besides just the posting. In other words, if
yeah.
Sandy decides to give up the ship and Woodford would post it and then say, we want a person, who's blonde, no.
A person who can do these
These
kinds
types
of,
of things.
Looks good.
these kinds
Well,
of
that-
things.
that's part of the.
Job description, isn't it?
Well, it's part of the
That's
job description, but it's also part of the process with the screening committee, is they go
Right.
through and develop a list of the qualifications they're looking for in the
Right.
person that's gonna take that specific job.
Right, but is
So-
that in the posting, is that
It
in?
could be,
How public,
because it's
yeah.
I
It's
think
not
that-
developed yet,
No.
Yeah.
so the committee looks at it.
Well,
So-
I think that's the part that we want public.
Right, but that's,
At some point,
and right,
So
and I'm
should we
saying,
have a job description for each committee,
well, that's,
basically?
it should be that if the committee is talking about screening, help screen someone, the job
Right.
description of what the
Right.
person is applying to should be made available for that. So what we're looking at here now, it sounds
just
as though we're
transparency
talking
in the
about
process.
trying to beef up and document, see the rigs. I mean, normally, this is a case where we think we need to put the rigs out, you
Yeah.
know, in some form or fashion
Is
to
there a way we
say
can
what
do
it is
that?
it's gonna do. That's what we're asking for that, and that's why I throw these things out here. So everything that we've talked about so far is that we need to probably get those in an administrative rig, so there won't be any question in the administrative rigs to those bodies that are gonna become part of that, hey, this is what we're saying we're gonna have.
And I think, just overall, I'm kind of, I love a good hiring process, and I will be glad to share with you. As a matter of fact, I just printed a nice graphic that I think that is one of the most important things we do in schools, is hiring well.
Absolutely.
And I don't know that everyone understands that there is a process for hiring, and to really detail that in some policies, administrative regs would be helpful to people, because you would have examples of what happens in what
Precisely.
order.
Right,
Okay.
I mean,
that's
So-
what I mean by
so I
job
think-
description for the committee.
Okay,
Right, so maybe
Wait.
that's precisely what needs, if you have that.
well, Sandy was.
Sandy
was
was-
trying to-
Sandy,
She won't knock the door down and get in.
Sandy talk
But-
before
but
she
we're gonna get
cries.
her.
What I was
Do
gonna
it.
say is that I know that our human resource director was working on job descriptions and job analysis for
Right.
each position, so that they're always out there, so that we know exactly what's involved if you're gonna be in this position or that position.
They're also
And that
looking-
Who's the
Right.
we in that sentence though,
We,
Sandy?
well, perhaps you would like to come up to another school and become, you could go and look at it, this is what
Is it a public document, and where, that would be the, see, that's the, the
That's the
question I
piece that
ask
we're
myself.
missing.
Exactly how transparent is this process? When you say we, I think you mean administrators.
no,
Wait,
And
wait, we don't.
So that's,
what,
Yeah, we'll direct it a different way. What I don't wanna do is have
No,
a
I'm just-
conversation
I
going back and forth this way. You can
I
send them up
understand.
here to me,
Yep.
and you can give me the bad look if you want to.
sorry, Leanne.
But-
No, I think that makes sense.
what I believe is happening is that the human resource director was creating that for every position.
Right,
Now, what she did with that information, that I don't know. That's a
Okay.
Donna
so
question.
Donna's got this here, the
There you
idea
go.
hiring process. So,
And that is exactly what happened in,
Come on.
okay, and
The
so this
process.
has, well, yes, and if that's part of, it says, an open position, and I'll go through this, a job description, an advertisement, initial screening,
too much color.
candidates review, offer, selection, background and reference check, on-site interviews and tests, and phone interviews.
Sure.
So these are all of the things out here, and there's no reason why those things could be just said, this is administrative regs. And then this is what we do.
Yeah.
And whether you mean, you don't wanna tie anybody's hands and so forth, but this
Right.
scenario here that you're going through, so that when it gets there and says, well, and under this initial screening, it says use pre-screening questions to eliminate those that do not meet your minimum criteria. So you got some stuff here that we're talking about. And so this, you know, I don't know how you wanna do it, but, you know, this, especially for this one right here, something you may wanna do that, or other areas out there, some kind of way to show that. I wouldn't show all the different colors because they get to be expensive.
I know, that's right. Only maybe a couple
Along that
there.
line, but
We
yeah,
could auction
so-
them off.
Yeah,
that's all right.
But that's what we're talking about, so we're talking about making sure that those particular things get put in under this particular section as an attachment of administrative regs of some kind. So is that feasible, Donna, to do that?
We
I'm
would
sorry.
just need to make some, hiring, some administrative regs for hiring. I think they're general, they're not just for
Yeah, exactly.
administrators,
Right.
they're
Right.
for any hiring.
Right,
Sure.
right.
And this is the process that you go through.
Mhm.
And this is exactly the process that was used for
Mhm.
the high
Right.
school hire.
It says offer, provide a verbal offer and follow up with a written offer and establish a start date and once offered is accepted and so forth. Those are some things that everybody don't know that's happening because I'm just
Sure.
been hearing a lot of questions asked out here, and the way you put an answer to, you put an end to it,
There's the plan.
right, you know.
Don't
You
you
got
like
it.
that? Don't
Oh,
you?
I love it. I'm gonna tell you. So this is my copy I can keep,
You can have that.
okay.
I'll be making copies and handing them out.
No.
We can make copies for everyone if you want.
Okay.
No, I-
So
It's
we're
online.
getting down, I just wanna remind you, it's 10 after 5 and we have
Right.
5
You
minutes
do have to go.
to go. So I think what we've summed up here is that with that one change and with the addition of the administrative regs and done, we're thinking it would that should be back probably in August, is that
Sure.
what you think? In August, that'll be on the agenda just to look at for
That's
August.
great.
Okay.
And
Thank-
I would just add one thing, and I'm with you, I don't think that we want to change the policy, because it's so difficult to do, but I do think in the screening process, and I'll talk short here, I think it's difficult when you say the superintendent in consultation with the board chair will establish a screening and interview committee and process. It makes it bulky that the superintendent or assistant superintendent can't go about doing your job according to a hiring process without some consultation with the board chair. I don't know quite what that means.
Well, I think.
You know, maybe you would, it would just be that you make some kind of document for how the process is going to be run.
Well,
And it could follow this reg. But that makes it bulky to think, what, I now have to go meet with the board chair and have a chat about how we're gonna
well,
do the hiring?
well, no, I don't think it came as that way. If my interpretation of it is that if you see, one of the things, we want to make sure, I mean, that the board desires in terms of the direction that the district is going to go in is in sync with the superintendent in
Right.
terms of bringing a new person in. So the person that you would be in consultation with is the board chair, and so what are you looking for? What this is the district out here, and where the district want to go versus where I want to take the district, and the type of person that we want to put in that job. Okay, that's what I'm thinking. That mean out there.
It just feels like that would happen way before in the process, but when you're into the screening process, that's sort of after that. But anyway, I
okay.
won't take up too much of your time. We'll look at
We can-
creating some
we'll
regs
come-
and make it more systematic.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Okay, well, with 2 minutes, it's the, left, or three, roughly 2 minutes left, is the, our tracking sheet. And, on the tracking sheet, if my memory serves me, okay, is that I think there were several items that are on there that are now going to be up and going to SVSU.
Right.
It was nothing
Well,
that
no,
was
not yet. Well, one.
action taken, that was,
These I don't have,
anaphylaxis.
for search and seizure, I don't have the minutes back from all the meetings yet, because some of them didn't
Okay,
take
so,
place long ago, so I'm optimistic.
so that's for SVSU. That's
Yeah.
as one, and it's supposed to be going to SVSU, and so we're looking for the minutes for that.
Right.
To make sure we got that, so, okay. And the other ones are now going to go back for warning, for adoption, which is the
computer network policy.
right. That's the one that's going around, and I'm really
warranted,
impressed.
yeah.
That has really brought to light a lot of things for a lot of people out here, so
Yeah.
that was a good
Good.
piece for that.
Attendance is all cleared,
Right.
it's been adopted by SVSU, so
Right.
that'll be posted
Okay,
tomorrow.
that's good.
Great.
So, I think that, that we met the objectives here this afternoon, and we got 32 seconds left. I'm gonna give you a little time off, so I wanna thank everybody for coming, and we'll check with you on the next month. Thanks.
Thank you, Leah.